Hello, namaskar viewers. I am Sanjeev Pandya welcoming you to this week's edition of the Business Talk with Ajay Kumar right here on ITV Gold. The show is brought to you by SAI CPA Services, a full-fledged complete accounting firm located in state of New Jersey, multiple locations in state of New Jersey, but you can reach them from wherever you are in the US or in India because they can also help you with NRI's tax returns as well. SAI CPA Services, their trained staff and on-hand experienced CPAs will guide you, navigate you in the right direction, what kind of company you should set up, and what kind of payroll services and accounting services that you need for your small to mid-size to even a large business. They've been in the business for over 30 years and they are one of the most reputable and one of the most reliable CPA firms that you can find. We like to thank them for sponsoring the show, and with that note, I'd like to welcome Mr. Ajay Kumar of SAI CPA Services, CPA and MBA, over 25 years of experience, doing a fine job in helping out individuals and business owners with their personal as well as corporate tax returns. Ajay, good to have you.
Thank you, Sanjeevji. Thank you for the kind introduction.
You're very welcome. SAI CPA Services, we thank you so much since you do such a fine job. And talk about fine job, this is the time that we should really, we should hold our head high and we should take pride in India's achievement. It's a business talk show, but I must bring this story to you, as every time I talk about this, I get goosebumps. And just like any Indian who would be proud, for this achievement, I am equally as proud as you can imagine. India successfully launched mission Chandrayaan-3 on the moon and became the first country in the world to land on the south pole of the moon, because India is the fourth country to be on the moon: US, Russia, China, and India. But India, first country to land on the south pole of the moon, and that's a major achievement that happened earlier in the week. I believe on Wednesday it happened, and we're all very, very proud. So just wanted to say congratulations to ISRO, Absolutely. Indian Space Research Organization, the chief of ISRO, S. Somnath, and his entire team deserves a really, really round of applause. And we're very, very proud of them. We're proud Absolutely. Of Indian government also, and all the Indians who supported and cheered our agenda to be on the South Pole on the moon.
Absolutely. It's a proud moment for every Indian around the globe. And we also want to mention the budget. The Chandrayaan-3, the budget was so low that you can't even have a movie made out of it. I mean, there are jokes around that even Adi Purush movie costed more than Chandrayaan-3. So consider the expertise of these scientists, that they can do this type of phenomenal job with very limited amount of money that India can afford.
That is a matter to be taken in consideration, because countries like, Russia, for example.
Absolutely.
Just 2 weeks ago, they tried to land on a South Pole on the moon, but they couldn't do that.
Yep.
Their mission failed, and they spent so much money. USA has spent so much money on their project, and India's budget was far less than those countries. Again, the lander and the rover were not the best technically available, but the way they had planned it, and however, this brilliant scientist at ISRO worked it out so well that it was a successful mission. And again, we're all proud of it, and this is another achievement in India's favor, and India's progress is just continues and continues.
Absolutely.
With that note, I want to bring another story here. History in the making also. This week has been really phenomenal. Just past Wednesday, there was the first Republican Party's presidential debate, AJ, right?
Absolutely.
And out of 8 candidates who qualified to be on the debate, because to qualify on the debate, you must have 40,000 donors,
yep, at least 1%.
And you must have 1% of poll numbers in the national as well as the state polls.
Yep.
So out of 8 candidates, there were 2 candidates who were Indian origin. One is Nikki Haley, former governor of South Carolina, and the other was Vivek Ramaswamy, who himself calls a businessman. On the screen on a debate, it says businessman, but he's a very successful entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
I also like to add there is a 3rd Indian origin candidate in the race as well. His name is Harsh Singh. He is from New Jersey. He's very well from New Jersey. He ran for governor from New Jersey and he ran for the Senate seat for New Jersey. Apparently, he came up short. But he is in the race, but he couldn't qualify because of less than 40,000 donors or the poll numbers, either one of them. So he was not there. But it was amazing. It was a pride to see two Indian origin candidates in the debate. Now, these two children of Indian immigrants, right? It was nice, but they both kind of disagreed, and they actually, Nikki Haley went really berserk with Vivek Ramaswamy on a foreign policy issue, because Vivek said that he would be the first one to cut the aid to Ukraine, and Nikki Haley says no, that would not be the right thing to do. But anyway, so they disagree on the policies, which is okay, it's individual, but just to see two Indian origin candidates.
That's a big deal. I mean, consider a country, a foreign country, America. We are talking about, where the Indians are not even 1%. You have 2 out of 8 people coming up.
And you know what? Those two, keep an eye on those two, because both of them, or at least one of them, will really, really make mark in this race to presidency 2024. They both have a great future. Let's see what happens. You know, if this is what's happening right now in 2023 or 24 that we're talking, right? Think about the next election and election after.
And the election after that. I mean, it's a matter of time, and you have the Indian president in America.
There you go. All right. So we're so happy to bring you these two top stories in this week's Business Talk show. Now let's continue with the business talk.
Absolutely.
When it comes to business, you know, China has been a growth engine for the worldwide economy and a worldwide, global economy and a global growth. But lately, China has been having a real tough time.
Yes, China's economy is in trouble, and for many reasons. Political instability, yuan being not growing because of the deflation, a lot of industry problems. If you remember, just 6 months ago, we had a lot of shipment issues in the country because of the China port. So China is going through a turmoil, and China is seeing a deflation. China is seeing an economic downturn. It could be as bad as 8%.
Yes.
It's not good for the world economy. Remember, China is one of the largest economy in this whole world. After US, China is the biggest economy. So if your second largest economy is having a downturn, it impacts the whole world. But I mean, there is always a silver side to it. I think it's going to be good for India to see that. Because there was a time when everything that US was importing in terms of dollar store to the grocery, to the containers, everything was coming through China. Now you see a lot of these shipments are coming from India directly, not going through China.
All right. So now with that note, I mean, does India have more chances to become, to get even closer to the top? Right now, India stands at the 5th largest economy in the world.
As we discussed in our last episode, India is going to be number 3 economy, or at least Mr. Modi claims that
in the next 5 years.
In the next 5 years, India will be the number 3 economy. I mean, more than Japan or German. India will be higher than Japan and German. So it may not surpass China. China is pretty large. But after US, China, India will be the 3rd largest economy in the world.
Okay. All right. So let's see what happens. But China definitely is feeling a heat right now, especially the real estate sector, and all the other things combined together is really, it's something to watch out for. Let's see what happens. And talk about China. All right. And India, China's Premier Xi Jinping and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi just met at the sidelines of BRICS summit, right? And it was a very, very short meeting between them.
And they are expanding BRICS. If you remember BRICS, there were 5 countries, including Britain, India, China, and they were working together to avoid a situation when dollar is the world currency. Now they're inviting 6 more countries in BRICS group. So there will be 11 countries, I mean, assuming all the 6 countries agree. So it's seen as an effort to de-dollarization, where dollar will not be the universal currency. Either they can come up with their own currency, or it could be even Indian rupees. Indian rupees is used in many countries now.
I know.
So this is seen. Expansion of BRICS is seen as an attempt to de-dollarize the whole world.
Well, these nations, what they are saying, Ajay, and these nations are saying that we are not getting an opportunity, for the growth of our nation, development of our nation. That's why we need to
rightfully
have
so.
our own group
Absolutely.
where we can do business with each other, and all of them will prosper.
And why not?
Right. And right now, BRICS, BRICS, stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa.
Absolutely.
This is what the BRICS is. And right now, as we speak, BRICS have just concluded, their meeting in South Africa. And that's where Prime Minister Narendra Modi was there, and he was live during Chandrayaan-3 landing also. But now, having added these countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Iran, right? It brings more flexibility into it.
Absolutely.
For the trade businesses, because these countries offer oil and many other products as well. All right, moving on to the next story. Now let's go to a story which is in the US. One of the very known and one of the largest phone carriers, T-Mobile, is laying off 5,000 people.
Which is equal to almost 7% of its workforce. That's a huge deal. That's a big deal. And these situations are never aloof, never alone. When you see T-Mobile laying off 7% or 5,000 people, now next thing you see Verizon, AT&T, other such carriers are laying off people left and right. So a lot of these things are seen as a start in a trend. And remember, we are going through a tough economy right now. People are still worried about recession. People are still worried about increasing interest rate. We are still expecting a next interest increase early September, on September 12th.
Yeah.
So put everything in perspective, and you see a large company, a public company, laying off 5,000 people.
5,000.
That creates a concern in the world economy.
Absolutely. So one, T-Mobile is laying off 5,000 people. And this popular sandwich chain, which is loved by Indians also, we all love it, because whenever we go on a trip, we always say, let's have a sandwich from Subway.
Absolutely.
Subway is now sold to a private, investment company called Roark Capital, ROARK, for $9.6 billion. Subway was asking $10 billion, so just a short of
money.
It's
always some negotiation. But just to put things in perspective, a lot of people don't know what Roark is, but it's the same group that owns Dunkin' Donut, that owns Arby's, that owns Baskin Ridge.
Roy Rogers, some of them.
Absolutely. So it's a large group.
It's a private equity firm. I was missing that word, private equity firm.
So they are just the investors. So you won't really see a lot of change in the management or a lot of change in the menu. This is not how the private investors work. The private investors are out there to maximize the profit and find a synergy. Since they already have a sandwich shop, Arby's and a couple of other shops, they will try to find synergies, but you won't really see an impact at the store level, at least immediately.
Well, Subway has been very, very successful.
Absolutely.
Subway became more successful than Blimpie. Remember, there were years ago, decades ago, there was a Blimpie, but Blimpie ran out of business. And Subway, I think, AJ, in my opinion, Subway needs a little bit of variety. Even though they started breakfast menu and everything else, they advertise very well during a
and
football
Subway
season.
is safe food, especially in the ethnic community, especially in the Indian South Asian community. I mean, what you want, a sandwich, a veggie sandwich, with a potato patty. So Subway is a staple food almost that you can count on, that you know that this is going to be good. It doesn't matter wherever you eat.
But I must say, Subway really, so far now, Subway really tried very hard to stay in people's mind and eyes because of their advertisement. Their campaign's been very, very effective.
Absolutely.
They had signed some very known sports players, to promote Subway. But anyway, let's move on. We just talked about T-Mobile laying off 5,000 people. According to U.S. Labor Department, the jobless rate is down.
Absolutely. And what it means is lesser people are claiming the unemployment benefit. So finding the workers is getting more and more difficult. Now you put everything in perspective. People are being laid off, lesser job claim. And you wonder, are people getting the job? Not really. There is a limit how many months you can apply for unemployment. After that, you don't have the right to claim the unemployment. So you don't really see it in our data. So it's hard to find job, hard to find qualified worker. Interest rate is high. Housing prices are soaring. The economy is at a turmoil. Stock market is one day is high and one day is extremely low. 300 points drop in one day. So this is the time when you want to preserve the cash. This is the time when you want to save the cash, keep the cash in a fixed deposit on a money market account. This is not the time to go out and investing money.
Well, you know what? That refers to what Biden is saying. President Biden is saying it's a Bidenomics, Biden economics, Bidenomics. And just a couple of days ago in the press conference at the Oval, he said that this Biden economics is working. And I only found out about that when I was watching Republican presidential debate. And that's the first video they had. It was about Biden economics. And then Republican presidential candidate had to answer to that where does the country stand. But with that note, where we stand is that we need to take a break. We'll be right back after this messages and second part of the Business Talk Show coming your way right after these messages. Please don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the second half of the Business Talk Show right here on ITV Gold. The show is brought to you by SAI CPA Services. For any and everything accounting related matters, you can contact SAI CPA Services. When I say accounting, it's accounting as well as taxation matters, personal or corporate. You can reach them at 908-380-6876. That's a 908-380-6876, or visit their website, saicpaservices.com. And like I said, that no question is a silly question when it comes to SAI CPA Services. For simple tax related question, to even have an accountant advise you and guide you on your tax return, or if you are in IRS tax audit, SAI CPA Services can certainly help you out. Do give them a try and reach out to them. Moving on to this second part of the Business Talk Show. Now, this story that we're about to bring it to you, the meaning behind the story is more important because, a lot of things is changing, and in this country, this change is occurring too fast, too soon, and it's very, very alarming. And I'm talking about one thing, which is in-store theft. This has been happening no matter where you take in the West Coast or even in the East Coast. This has been happening. In-store theft is rising, and because of that, retailers are losing a lot of businesses. What will that do? That will increase the prices for regular consumer to pay whatever that they want to buy from the store. And all these big retailers, once they start reporting losses in their financials, it's going to create a havoc.
Absolutely. And Sanjeevji is touching about the Dick's Sporting Goods. They released their quarterly report and they are showing huge losses. And they're pointing out these huge losses is because of the store theft. And we want to differentiate. Theft here means that somebody took the shoes, somebody took something and left the store without paying for it. So it's
and
not,
legally you can go.
That's the biggest problem.
In California, there is a law.
San Francisco we are talking about.
Up to a couple of $100, you don't stop them. You let them go.
And that's not theft. That's forced.
Yes.
So what we are trying to say, there is a difference between chori and dakati.
Yeah.
So there is a theft and there is a forced robbery. So what we are talking about in Dick's Sport Goods is more of a theft than robbery. In San Francisco, the situation is even worse.
Okay.
But if the story is not as important as the meaning behind it, as Sanjeevji mentioned, so we have to see how the world is going, where this country is heading to. And when the economy becomes difficult, when the economy goes to this situation where people don't have money to eat, where people don't have food, this is what they are forced to do.
Ajay, and what I like to add, Dick's Sporting Goods story is the one thing. Just before we got into the show, I came across a story. Dollar General Stores, right? They reported a loss also.
Absolutely.
And one of the reasons, their CEO and CFO, they both said the number one concern is the theft, in-store theft. So because Dollar General Store also owns like Family Dollar and the other dollar store related entities,
Absolutely.
right? What they are saying now that in the next few months, the consumer is going to be seeing some changes in the store. Some of the expensive items are going to be kept behind the counter in a locked cabinet.
So they're forced to do it.
Yeah, because they have no choice.
Absolutely.
You have shoppers walking in the store, Ajay, and a lot of my friends, they have told me, because they are in the retail business, right? They open the packages, they take the stuff what they need, and literally walk out of the store just like,
And nobody can touch them.
Correct. No one can touch them, no one can go after them.
And the cops are so busy chasing the other bigger crimes that they don't want to invest any time.
No,
into these
even if they go to invest them, there's nothing they can do. This law is up here is something that you can walk away. There's nothing you can. Even retailers are saying, let them go. Don't go after them. Because obviously one is just scary. You never know if person is carrying a weapon or not, and may hurt you, may not. So employee safety comes first.
Absolutely.
And they don't want to get into these things. And there are people, even though economy is good, even though jobs are out there, people just don't want to work and go in a store and steal the stuff. Anyway, all right. So that's a story. Now let's go into the tax scenario. Let's bring in some interesting tax stories.
Absolutely. So the very first story, the interesting story, the IRS claims that they are done with 2021 backlog. 2022 backlog is still there, but due to COVID, due to work from home, and due to employee shortage, IRS was sitting on a lot of backlog from 2020. 2021 and of course 2022. IRS is now claiming that they are done with 2021 up until 2021 backlog. There are some backlogs for 2022. So if you are one of those people who are still not getting the IRS refund, you will see some positive news. IRS has invested a lot of money into their employees. A lot of new hires are done. So IRS is claiming that their collection was far better than any other prior years in the first half of 2023. Now I'm not sure if that's a good news or bad news. It's good news for IRS, bad news for taxpayers if the IRS is collecting the money. But at the same time, we want to remind our viewers that there's a tax filing deadline coming up. If you filed an extension for your business taxes, please consider filing your taxes, business taxes by September 15th and personal taxes by October 15th. You get 6 months extension. There is no further extension. If you don't file the taxes, you are considered 6 months late, not 1 day late. If you file your business taxes on September 16th, technically now you are 6 months late. The other good news when we are talking about the IRS is increasing and they increase every year with the inflation, their income tax rate. But in 2024, people should expect to see more money in their paycheck than what they see in 2023. Based on the way that we see the inflation increases that IRS has published, a lot of people will see more net paycheck than what they have seen earlier.
Oh, really? That reminds me to a story. This point was touched upon presidential debate, Republican presidential debate just a couple of days ago. Social Security. Former governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie, has raised this issue in his campaign from New Hampshire to Iowa to all the way to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, right? He's saying Social Security is going to go bankrupt in about 11 to 12 years and need to reform Social Security. Now, this is one issue no politician would like to talk about.
Absolutely. People want to
because the moment you say Social Security cuts or stop Social Security, that means you're going to lose votes.
You're going to lose the election. Absolutely.
All right. So now Chris Christie has taken upon this issue. And let's see what happens. Mike Pence has said that we need to work on it. We need to figure out something. One of the options they suggested is to increase the retirement age for the people who are in the 30s and 40s now. For them, increase retirement age so that way you have more funds into Social Security.
There are several options on the table. Not only you can increase the retirement age, you can increase the number of quarters. Right now, people have to contribute to 40 quarters to get qualified.
Yes.
They can increase the number of quarters, and then there is a table, there is a matrix that they use as how much money you will be getting.
Correct.
They can reduce that matrix, they can reduce that amount. So there are several options that they can play with.
Absolutely.
But the tax system in general is so complicated right now. So what happens, people come in power, people win the election, and just to please one of the groups, they will say, okay, over 50, you have additional catch-up deduction. Okay, larger income, instead of Roth IRA, you can do regular IRA. So just to appease, just to please different groups, they keep changing the tax system. And at one point of time, it becomes so complicated that it needs overhauling. So in the election, they are suggesting $1.4 trillion, not billion, not million, $1.4 trillion of tax overhauling.
Oh, wow.
I mean, for any party, it's going to be difficult to get away with everything, but the tax system is overdue for an overhauling.
Okay. That is interesting. Anyway, I think we're down to last story right now because
Absolutely.
we're running out of time, and that's what they are saying. As India made history this week, Chandrayaan 3 on the South Pole side of Moon, and Indian origin candidates in the Republican presidential debate. There was just a history in the making, and we came very short. A young Indian prodigy, 18-year-old man, all right, R. Pragyananda.
Pragyananda,
Right,
absolutely.
he could have become the chess World Cup final champion. In the 3 rounds, first 2 rounds were draw. In the third round, he lost.
He still did very well. He's
yes,
still number 2. That's
number
something to
two.
be proud of.
And he is a child prodigy after Vishwanath Anand, who was the master in the chess. And this kid started to play chess at the age of 2.
That's amazing.
First, he won his title at the age of 8, and now he's now 18. So he's got a great future. So I just want to acknowledge and let our Pragyananda know that he's got a great future. We're very, very proud of him. With that note, we come to an end of the Business Talk Show right here on
Absolutely.
ITV Gold. Ajay, as always, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Remember, SAI CPA Services 908-380-6876. Until we meet again, same place, same time, I am Sanjeev Pandya, wishing you all happy and tax-free days ahead. So long.
Thank you.